Welcome back to another chess game analysis video. Today I want to show you a game between Leonid Kritz and Kim Pilgaard. And if you take a look at the players' ratings, this is not a Grandmaster game, but still nevertheless it features a very nice opening that I wanted to show you. And both players, according to the engine, played a very nice game. And let's get straight into the game. We have e4, e5, then we have d4. And this is called the center game. It can also lead to other variations like the Scotch game. But here in this variation we have a gambit. E takes d4. And now you sacrifice a pawn with c3 for a lead in development. Black normally captures the pawn. D takes c3. And now you have two options. You can either gambit one pawn by taking with the knight, or you can gambit another pawn with even more development. And this is what happened in the game. Bishop c4, even more development. Now the b2 pawn is also hanging. So black captures another pawn and bishop takes b2. So white basically gives two pawns for a lead in development, two very nicely developed bishops and a center pawn. The engine says white has some compensation, but it's not a perfect gambit. You still need to play this, and two pawns is a lot for lead in development, so you need to have some concrete ways to win back material. Here, one of the rather often played lines is d5. This is what Kim played here. Bishop takes d5. So we have knight f6, basically now forcing a variation where white wins back one pawn and the middle game that arises is pretty much equal. We have a very nice move here. Bishop takes f7, temporarily sacrificing a piece to win black's queen. And now with bishop b4 check, black can sacrifice back the piece to win back the queen. So now an equal material and an equal position. The engine gives 0-0. We have rook e8 development now attacking the pawn. Knight gf3 development. Quickly take a look at why can't you win this pawn with knight takes e4. The problem is that now after knight e5, the rook's vision to his own knight is limited and you can easily win the knight after king g8 and knight takes e4. So you basically just win the knight for nothing. So don't be greedy, don't take this pawn, but rather develop with c5 here, putting a pawn into the extended center here onto this fifth rank, so it has got some control. Knight e5 check anyway, king g8, f4. The engine doesn't like that move, and I would personally have preferred f3 as well. If you take a look at this very nice pawn chain, this is now also supported by the nicely placed knight on d2. I would have preferred that position. f4 seems to weaken these squares, so maybe a knight can get into this, or a bishop. Let's see. We have knight bd7 development. So trying to trade off the very nicely placed e5 knight of white. So we have castles, takes and takes. So the nice knight has been exchanged. Black is slightly better now, but it's not a lot. b6, trying to develop the bishop and fianchetto it onto the long diagonal here. We have rook f3 and a rook lift. You can definitely play this, trying to reach the g2 square at the g3 square where the rook would very nicely pressure the black king. So with bishop b7, this was prepared all the way. Now development, rook g3, and now king f7. So it's a little bit questionable whether the king actually belongs there or not. We're gonna see quickly again. If you wanna be greedy and take the pawn, what happens? Knight takes e4, and now this knight is overloaded. It needs to block the bishop's vision to the g7 square. So if you take with the knight, then you lose two pawns, and white is definitely better here. So again, don't be greedy, don't take the pawn. We have in this position king f7, which was better than being greedy. Game continued here with knight c4, trying to bring the knight into the attack. Rook a d8, completing development here with the rooks. Now exchanging this rather nicely placed knight on f6, which is constantly threatening to take here. So bishop takes f6, we have g takes f6, and now this is why I said it's a little bit questionable whether the king actually belongs here. With moves like rook f1, rook e1, or maybe bringing the other rook onto the f or e file, the black king is very likely to be attacked here. Even though you normally say bring the king into the center when there's an endgame on the board. It is still a little bit tricky because after e5, lines are about to open, and you need to be very careful what you do with your king. Rook e7, this move is okay. Knight comes in here, knight d6, check. And now what you need to do is hold the position. If you just go back, king f8, there is actually no attack for white because you can't really take here because there are always tricks. If you take here, then we have rook e d7, for instance. Pushing the knight, this double pawn is kind of weak. So I wouldn't recommend taking here. This is just an equal position where none of the players actually can do more than a draw probably. So it still was Black's best try to actually draw this game here. Instead, Black king e6, now bringing the king even closer into the middle of the board, and rook e1 is coming. Now you need to be very careful that the lines for the Black king don't open. But now another inaccuracy. F takes e5, now the lines do open. After rook takes e5, white temporarily wins the knight here on d6, but after rook d3 check, king c7, king c6, you win back the d8 rook, which was misplaced. These two rooks here, problem is that they don't have really a good harmony between them, so you can simply take one rook and you are up the exchange in this endgame, which Black in this position resigned because there was no way to continue playing this game on a rather high level. You just resigned this position. Maybe a couple more moves could have been played, but if you exchange the rooks here, that's basically game over. So a rather short game, even with 25 moves, but it still shows that these gambits, especially like the Danish gambit, where you sacrifice 2 pawns for a lead in development, are very dangerous. So maybe I'm gonna show another game as well from the Danish Gambit because I personally very much like it. So, if you want me to analyze your games or games from your favorite players, you're very welcome to send them in. And I hope you liked this game, a rather short one this time. Check out my Twitch if you want to see live chess gameplay, and check out my Instagram. See you soon. Bye.